Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? It's time for a new HGUC kit, and I always love a good HGUC kit. I mean, master grades are great when those come around, but they just don't come around often enough. Great HGUC kits I always like to take a look at. So whether this one's great or not, I guess is still yet to be seen, but this is the Messer from Hathaway's Flash. So this is enemy mobile suit there, obviously, as you can tell by the mono eye, the red colors. It's not a Char mobile suit, but it certainly has a kind of similar color scheme to that. But it's a very cool mobile suit, one that I never really expected to ever see a kit of. I know that there's been like a resin kit or two that have been made in the past, but never really expected to see a proper Bandai kit of this. And as you can see, it's a pretty big box as well too, so 1/44 scale HG kit, but I know the kit, like the mobile suit, is quite large as well, and I guess this box size should be a good indicator of that. So let's go ahead and just take a look around the box. I mean, the box art, as you guys can see there, is very cool. You just got the Messer flying along there. You can see it's this big, bulky thing there. Well, let's go ahead and take a look around the other sides of the box then, shall we? On the one side here, you can see this is just number 233 in the HGUC line. And then here on the bottom of the box is where you're going to see the painted sample build front and back. It looks really nice. I like that alternate sort of slightly greenish color for the gun. That seems to be kind of taking some hints from just kind of like popular trends in Gunpla Japanese modelers there, I think. But anyway, you got just the basics for the weapons, basically the long beam rifle, the large shield, and beam sabers, so your kind of basic accessories for that. It does have some nice articulation gimmicks. It's a very big, bulky mobile suit, sort of like the Gustav Karl, but this one looks like it's better engineered, just in that the engineering looks like it's going to allow for a lot nicer posability compared to what the Gustav Karl had to offer, so that should be good. It does look like it's able to pull off some pretty cool moves there. And then around here on the top of the box, we just got a CG image of the kit there, which does look pretty nice, and then a bunch of information over there on the side in Japanese and in English, just some background information about the mobile suits. So we got that on the outside of the box, but let's go ahead, pop it open, and see what we got inside. 5 big bags of runners, and it looks like there's a lot of parts in there, and then our instruction manual. So in typical HGUC fashion, on the front of the manual here, we just got the nice big painted sample build there, so that's just a nice reference if you're going to be painting it in the official colors here. Around on the back, we got some more information, and basically the same kind of pose that we saw on the outside of the box, with some information about the long beam rifle, which is not necessarily all that long, it's kind of a strange name, beam saber, and then the large shield, again pretty basic for the accessories there it seems like, and then some more about the story down here, and then the color guide is down there in Japanese and in English as well. Inside here we've got our parts list, and it looks like even though this is an entirely new kit, we are going to have a handful of leftover parts here from the B2 runner. We've got 2 of that, but you only need like doubles of only a couple of the parts. The rest of the parts you don't need doubles for, so it's kind of weird they molded it in that way. But then it just gets on into the construction with the body, the head, the arms, the legs, and then back around to our color pages here. Finishing up the legs, and then the waist section, the backpack, which is not really much of a backpack, kind of just this little bit that goes on there on the back of the body, and then the weapons, which are going to be pretty simple there as well, it looks like. Alright, so here's a look at the foil sticker sheet, which is good in that it's quite small. You really only have a few little yellow ones on there. The pink ones are going to be for the mono eye. The unfortunate part about that is that we've got 3 of those, which makes me think that this is not going to be a movable mono eye in there. It's basically that you've got extras so that you can change the position of where you've got that mono eye sticker, but the actual part doesn't move, is what I'm thinking, but again, we'll find out here in a moment. And then we've got SB1 for our beam saber effect parts here in clear yellow, and notably, no polycaps with this kit. So we can move right on into the A runner then, which is in 4 colors. You got this really dark kind of maroonish brown kind of color over here, this light sandy tan kind of color all through the middle, a little bit pale yellow up there at the top for some vent details, and then this darker red color there for this is going to be like the main color of the suit. And it's also going to be the main color of our B runners. So first up is runner B1 for some of the larger armor parts there, and more of those here on runner B2. Again, we saw that a lot of these are going to be left over on the second of the B2 runners. And then we do also have runner B3, which is a copy of this section of the B1 runner. Then runner C1 is back to that light tan color for a bunch of parts for the shield, legs, and some other little accent areas. And then runner C2 is a copy of this top half of the runner there. Then runner D1 is in just kind of a standard medium gray color here, parts for the joints and the weapons, and it's continued on to runner D2, and you can just get a sense of how big this kit is based on how big those hands are and the joints and everything. It's going to be a pretty big boy, I think. And then lastly, runner D3 is a copy of this section of runner D1 with the addition of those couple parts there at the bottom. So as you can see, this is going to be quite the hefty HG144 scale kit, comparable to the, I don't know, something like the Kshatriya in its size. Obviously it doesn't have the massive binders and everything, but I don't know, we'll see here when we get it all built up, and then we'll see how it's looking. Alright, here he is, everybody, and woo, he definitely is a big boy. After building it though, I gotta say, I don't know if I'm liking those legs. I talked about this during the live stream build of this, and they're super thick, I mean, which is cool. Everybody likes, you know, big thick mobile suits, but I don't know, the legs just kind of look more fat to me. I don't know, I'm still undecided whether I like those or not, but still, it's a very cool kit, and it was a really fun kit to build because it was a really unique build. This is not really very similar to any other HG kits that I've built that I can remember. The build of this is very unique, and so it feels really new and fresh, and it feels very specifically engineered for this design. So in that way, I really appreciate this kit from Bandai. I mean, no matter what you think of the design, it's a really well engineered kit, and I think you guys will see that as we go through some posing and articulation and all that. But you can definitely tell that someone at Bandai really wanted to do this mobile suit some justice here with this kit. So let's go ahead and get into it, and you guys will see for yourselves. For accessories, we've got this action-based connector, a specialty one for this very big boy. And for hand options, we just got these big, massive holding hands here, as well as the trigger finger hand, which I've just got here on the beam rifle. Now, the beam rifle is all molded in gray, as we saw in the manual. It's in sort of like a greenish gray color for the body, actually a couple of different colors. So if you want it to look like it does on the manual or on the box art, then you're gonna have to do some painting. The side camera on there is pretty cool though, and it's basically just two parts sandwiched together. One part here for the side camera, one part there for the barrel. So pretty simple design. You will have a seam line down the middle of that. And of course, there are two clear yellow beam saber effect parts for the beam saber handles, which are stored here on the inside of the shield. Now the shield is pretty cool. On the outside, I like the design of it. Very big chunky shield looks like for a big chunky mobile suit. On the inside though, it's a little bit less appealing, but it is pretty standard for an HG kit to just be kind of a big hollow space on the backside of the shield, and for it to not be in a separate color. Of course, it would have been nice if like this main center part was in a separate gray piece rather than just all molded together, but you know, you will have to do some masking for that. This shield connector can be connected either onto the side of the arm or to the back of the arm, so you can choose the position where you want that. I prefer on the side of the arm, so I'm going to keep it here like that. And you'll see here on the back of the elbow, you have the point where to plug that in. So you can only plug it on that side, you can't plug it on this side. I guess you could swap that part though if you wanted that elbow part. If you wanted the shield on the opposite side, you could swap that. But I wouldn't really recommend that because it'll be crashing into this shoulder armor here. As you'll see when we put it on this arm here, even with this, it's crashing into the shoulder armor there a whole bunch when you try to turn that. So you have to kind of position it in a way that it's not touching the shoulder armor, but it's kind of like only straight on is that shoulder armor fitting inside there. I guess you could like try to angle that up a little bit more, but even still you're gonna have problems between the shoulder armor and the shield, so you have to try to position that carefully in a way so that those aren't crashing into each other. But speaking of positioning, then let's just get right on into the articulation. So the head, this is where one of the few other seam lines are on this kit aside from the beam rifle. On the side of the head, you'll have this seam line going across those dark red parts. It's just top and bottom half that's sandwiched together there. The only other notable seam line on this kit is here on the back of the arm as well. So at the end of this review, guys, stay tuned if you want to see how to remove that. I'll show you guys how to remove the seam line there on the back of the arm. You will have to modify the joint there a little bit, but I'll give you a look how to do that pretty easily if you're interested. As for the articulation, yes, the head will go up and down a little bit. You do have a joint there, sort of similar to like the Master Grade Sniper 2, how this whole neck joint will kind of lift up like that, so that will give you a little bit further down movement, but overall the up and down movement there of the head is going to be pretty minimal, as you can't really tilt it up at all. If you remove this part there on the front, you can move the mono eye side to side. Now again, that's just a sticker stuck on there. There's no molded detail for the mono eye, but you can move that a little bit side to side if you want. If you have it straight on, looking straight ahead, then the mono eye is going to be pretty much hidden behind this center part there, so it's kind of best to set it off to one side so you can actually see that there is a mono eye up inside there. As for the shoulder armor, it works pretty much the same way as it would if there was a shoulder polycap joint in there, but there's no polycaps with this kit, so that just moves in and out a little bit like that. It's cool how like this whole side of the torso moves a little bit like that. It's pretty cool. On the shoulder, this flap moves up and down a little bit, and the whole shoulder armor itself will also move up and down. The arm can come up to about 90 degrees. That's really going to kind of be about it. So I kind of wish that you had a little bit more upward movement there, but that's okay. Rotation there at the top, a very nice full bend there at the elbow. That's a really nice joint, and then the wrist just on a ball joint. Of course, going back here to the backpack quickly, This top red section, this middle part, and then this bottom section are each individually articulated, so you can lift that up, lift that up, lift that up or down. So it's kind of cool. You can have those all opened up like that or just closed up like that. So I kind of really like that backpack design. This shoulder armor over here works the same as the opposite side. It just moves up and down a little bit on its own. You can sort of rotate that a little bit as it's like connected via a ball joint, but it's not really much of a movement there. And then just real quick while we're here, I know on the stickers, there's little yellow bits here, the piping on the face and the piping on the top of the shoulders. Those are all the yellow stickers for this kit. So they work like well enough, but those are really easy pieces to mask for when you're painting the kit. So the stickers for this kit are pretty minimal and pretty non-essential, as those are really easy masked or just hand painted parts really. But the torso articulation, okay, the stomach crunch I want to talk about because it's fantastic for this kit. As you can see, it's very extreme, and just the way that it works is really good as well too. You can see how that accordions out like that. Very similar to like what some of the HGGM kits did recently and the different variants, but instead of like a ball joint attachment in there, a polycap ball joint, it's a much better connection so it doesn't come apart like a lot of the kits recently, the HG kits that use a polycap ball joint in there for this similar articulation have a tendency to come apart really easily. If you've ever built any of them, you know what I'm talking about. But this one, you're not going to have that issue. It's much more engineered, similar to a master grade kit, so it's really nice for that articulation there. Side skirts are kind of my only real problem with this kit, is that I feel like they come off and just don't move enough, come off too easily and don't move enough. So they move up to kind of there, which is enough, but then you'll see when you try to move the leg up a little bit, they pop off super easily. And that is because this connection here is just not really designed, I think, in a very good way. I can understand because of the design of the mobile suit, they had to design it in a very different, unique way, but I just don't really like that connection there. So the side skirts, or the front skirts I should say, and side skirts sort of, it's all kind of built into one. Will move up sort of to there, but yeah, they have a tendency to fall off really easily while you're moving stuff around. The back skirts are a totally different story, as these are connected via like this little mechanical arm there, sort of up into the back skirt there. You have some thruster detail, so these kind of move around a lot very easily. Of course, they're meant to just kind of be squared up like this, and they're meant to line up like that to be straight in the center, but mine I can't really get to stay like that. They keep getting not quite right in their positioning, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that or something. But anyway, you do have a pretty nice hip joint up in there. It's not a ball and socket joint or anything, but you're still limited to outward movement to only about there. You can't get the legs any wider than that, unfortunately. But you've got some rotation there at the top again, but as you'll see, as you rotate that around, these thigh parts are kind of coming apart a little bit, so just want to make sure you keep those together. And again, before the front skirt's going to be popping off, you can get the leg up to about there, which is kind of sort of almost to 90 degrees. Not that great. It would be better again if this front skirt was connected in a different way, but the knee bend is very good. You get a nice full double joint there at the knee. This front bit of ankle armor will move up and down there. Nothing moves on the back, but some nice detail with the thruster belts up in there. Nice detail up underneath the feet as well. Full detail there, so that's good. And for the ankle movement, you will have a little bit side to side there. It's just on a ball joint, and then forward up to there. It's not too bad, and then back to there, which is kind of just okay. And just to give you guys a sense of the size of this kit, here are two kits of the same scale. These are all 1/144 scale. You can see the original Gundam looking tiny in comparison. Even the Moon Gundam, which is a pretty big HG, still coming up very short in comparison to how massive the Messer is. So it's a very big mobile suit. But alright, so yeah, I mean, this is a really fun kit for sure. I mean, no matter what you think of the design, it's definitely a well-engineered kit as well too. I mean, just compared to something which came out not too long ago of a kind of similar size, like the HGUC Gustav Karl was also a pretty big suit, but that one, kind of my main complaint about that kit was that I just didn't really feel like it was engineered well enough with the size in mind. So I don't know if Bandai, that was a learning experience for Bandai, or if just they decided to pay more love and respect to the Messer design here. But for whatever reason, this also very big chunky design just is so much better engineered, I think, in comparison. So definitely big points to this kit. Not to say that the HGUC Gustav Karl is a terrible kit, I just think that this one is just much better in comparison. The details on this kit are just kind of okay. It's not packed with a ton of detail, something similar like the Moon Gundam is, but there's a good amount of detail on there and a lot of wide open spaces where if you like that, if you're someone like me, I kind of like just having some big wide open areas sometimes on your kits, but if you want to add some details in there, of course there's plenty of space to do that as well too. It's a very interesting mix of design elements. People have pointed out how there's a lot of mix of Xeon and EFSF design elements in the Messer. I guess that's true. But yeah, it's just a very unique, interesting design for sure. So if you wanted something that's going to be a much different looking kit than kind of anything else. This is, I think, one that fits the bill. I just kind of really like how there's a lot of different Zeon elements in there. Like the one shoulder kind of looks like the Dovin Wolf, and the spiked shoulder kind of looks more like the Zaku or the Hyzak. And the arms are kind of like basically similar to Zaku arms as well. The legs are sort of like a mix between like Zaku and Dom kind of legs there. It's got the big massive feet there as well too. The skirting armor also very large, something sort of similar to like the Zaku 3 or something. So one thing that came up during the live stream of this build was that it would be really cool if Bandai would make a new HGUC Zaku 3 engineered in this same way, because it's also a very big mobile suit. And so if they made like a new one that's really well engineered like this one is, that would be really awesome. So, you know, fingers crossed, as the Zaku 3 was one of the very first HGUC kits to come out. So, you know, hopefully, but I don't know if it's really popular enough to warrant a new kit of that, but I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts on this kit down in the comment section below. Again, let's get on, before the video ends, into just a quick tutorial how to remove that seam line on there. But as always guys, big thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support. If you want to check out the link to USA Gundam Store, that's down below there. Use my coupon code ZakuAurelius10 to save 10% off everything there. Alright, let's check out that arm. So how do we remove this seam line here on the back of the arm? I need to remove a couple pieces here first. This one off the top of the joint, and then this one off of here. This is where the old wave part separator comes in handy for tight parts like this. There you go. Now you can see the problem is going to be that when you glue these parts together, this elbow piece and this elbow joint are going to be locked in place. So you need to know how to keep those out while gluing the parts together, so you don't need to mask anything. So we'll come back to the elbow joint. As for this part here on the back of the elbow, it's going to be pretty simple. Basically, you can see it's held in there on the sides by this little tab there. So I think we can just cut off and remove that tab, and then this piece should be able to just slot down into place there. So you should do this carefully. Don't use, if you're using like God hand nippers or something, maybe don't take the risk with this, but anything else it should be fine. Just nipping that off there pretty simply, so then you can see you've got that just like that. I'm going to clean this up a little bit too with a knife. So then later, once these parts are glued together, now this elbow piece will just pop down into place like that. Very easy. You'll have to use some glue. Just put a little bit of glue in there, and then it just fits down into place like that. No big deal. So that's easy enough. And one other quick note here, once you've got these pieces in place here on the side of the elbow, they're kind of hard to get out. You can't exactly pull them out. So the best way to get those out is with a drill. Now once again, this is the drill set that I highly recommend to you guys from Mr. Hobby. You can now get, if you get it from USA Gundam Store, you can get this one special USA Gundam Store set. The only difference is that these are in USA Gundam Store colors, and they have the markings on there, but fantastic drill set, highly recommended. Just drill it out from the back, and then you can pop out that piece very easily. Now that piece is out, and you can paint it separately and then put it back in once it's painted. Now for modifying the elbow joint to fit into there, there's two things that you could do. One way, which is the way that I'm not going to do, but you could if you wanted to, is to cut this piece, like to cut it like from here to here or something, for example, and to make it so that these parts on the side of the elbow and this part on the back of the arm are separate pieces. You could do that, just make it separated so that these are different parts. And you can remove the seam line on here, and then you can use these parts just as normal. You'll just pop them together on the sides like that. That's something that you could do, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it an easier way, just by cutting a hole through the back of this elbow joint here. If you saw my recent work in progress video on the Megami device kits that I'm working on, then you see I did the same thing for the knee joint of the Megami device kit. But you can see the channel that I've just basically kind of drawn out there with the knife. That's what I'm going to cut, so that that's just cut out of there. That later on, then that can just slot into place here like that. So it's just a matter of cutting that part out. When you take that apart, you see there is a peg like kind of in the way of the channel that we're gonna cut. So basically you're gonna have to cut out that peg and get rid of that, but you really don't need it because you've got here two other pegs that are gonna hold everything together, so you'll be fine without that. So there you go. Once that's cut out, it's gonna look something like this. Now, how you cut that out really depends on you. You can use saws, knives, nippers, file, whatever is gonna work best for you. I used mostly knife and nippers just to cut away at that, and patience. Just make sure you're also patient as well. You don't want to damage the part any more than you have to. And also remember to just make sure that the width of your channel here is not wider than the actual hole itself. It should be equally as wide as the diameter of the hole or slightly less, and that'll help to keep your part in place. So just to test it out here, so you can see this will fit down into there. And the other thing I just want to mention to you guys too is that I'm noticing that the tolerance on this part, once these pieces are together, this is very tight fit in there, which is fine, but if you don't want to scratch the paint on your elbow joint when you're putting this in, then I would go ahead and just sand the inside of these parts a little bit down just so that the tolerance is not quite so tight, but this should just pop into place like that, and there you go. So that'll be an easy fix. And again, just from the side view so you guys can see what I mean. Now, normally, like I said, you want the channel to not be too narrow, but in this case, it's kind of fine that it's probably a little bit more narrow than what I would normally want to make it a little bit slightly wider, but because you've got a little bit of bend here because it's so thin at the top, you really need to be careful with that, is to not break that where that's really thin there, but that should give you a little bit of bend that will help to just pop that into place there like that, and it's a nice strong secure connection, and the arm's not gonna fall out of there actually, so it's actually quite good. So once you've got everything all prepared, the last step is then just to glue the seam line, and we'll just lay a little bit of glue on there. And once that glue is all cured, and you can sand that down, you can get ready for painting, and you're all good. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.